Hey guys. So for those of you who don't know, I played trombone in a band called The Action. And for about the past 10 years or so, we've played a Halloween show in full costume. Although, with everything going on this year, we played a grand total of one show, way back in February. That didn't even feel like it was this year. But we still wanted to do something for Halloween, as long as it was in a safe and responsible fashion. So we decided to record a performance with multiple cameras in our guitar player's garage. So in this video I'm going to break down how we set up the camera, the lights, go over a couple things that I could have improved on for next time, and show you kind of the breakdown of how I edited everything on the computer afterwards. So let's go. So first up, the set itself. Our guitar player, Mike, has tons of Halloween decorations he was able to pull from, and he created an awesome set for us in his garage. The only real criteria we had were just make sure that we were able to be 6 feet apart and that nobody was blocking the camera, we could all see, and everything looked good. With that ironed out, I set up the lights. I put 2 clamp lights up high to backlight the area, and then I put 2 tube lights on either side of the set. The tube lights added some interesting contrast to the scene while providing light on the set and on the members of the band. Now this is where I made my first mistake. Well, at least it's something I would correct for next time. With the tube lights between the band members, the outermost members, myself and Chris, were pretty dark on the outside of either one of us. It wasn't terrible, but it can definitely be better. So just pay attention to how everyone is lit. If you need to move lights around, go ahead and do so. If you need to add more lights to the scene, definitely do that. I used everything I had at the time. So next up is the cameras and the camera placement. So the actual cameras I used weren't that important. You could use cell phones if that's all you have. The only thing to watch out for is just make sure that there's enough light, and with the cell phone, make sure the footage is not grainy or too dark. I used my Sony a6600 for the main angle with a wide 16mm lens. This was the camera that was going to sit front and center in front of the whole band for a couple reasons. First, it has the audio in and out jacks, so we were able to take the mixer and route the audio directly into the camera without having to use any extra mics or the built-in mic on the camera. And second, I was able to record in 4K on this camera. Since the final video was going to be 1080p, I could crop or zoom in on the 4K footage and not worry about losing any quality. This cropped or zoom footage would also give the appearance of another camera angle. I had 2 other cameras set up as well. I used the DJI Osmo Action on the left side and my older Sony a6000 with a 30mm lens on the right side. The Osmo Action had a really wide angle lens, so it was placed pretty close to us. If I had a better camera, I would have used it, but since our budget for this was about $0, I was using everything I had. And for the a6000 capturing the right side, this is where I made another mistake. It doesn't have a flip up screen or flip out screen, so I really can't see what it was recording while it was recording, and I didn't take the time to watch the footage back after I recorded it, so I ended up capturing myself in the edge of a lot of the shots from this camera. Again, not a huge problem, but something I would definitely correct for next time. Also, I probably would have placed this camera on the other side of the set, facing inwards towards the rest of the band, but since we were in a pretty small garage and it was raining outside, so I really couldn't put the equipment out of the garage, that's where the camera ended up. So in addition to these 3 relatively static camera angles, I wanted to record some B-roll or close-ups for when people are playing solos to add some other movement into the shots. And since it was just the 5 of us there in the band, we didn't have anybody else around to help us capture that extra angle while we were performing. So we ended up playing another take after we finished the first take to record and kind of walk around and get close-ups at that point. So with all that footage captured, it's time to edit everything together to make that live performance. Now I'm using Final Cut 10 for the Mac, but the concepts are the same no matter what editor you're using. So first step, import all the clips into your editor. And this is where I made yet another mistake. The time on one of my cameras was off by about an hour, so when I imported the clips, they were all jumbled and not in any specific order. Again, not a huge deal, but just cost me some extra time and a little bit of frustration when I was trying to go through and pick out what clips to use within the final product itself. So just something else to double check if you're using multiple cameras and it's not a cell phone, make sure the date and the time is set correctly. So I'll add my bass clip, the one from the camera with the main angle and the audio from the soundboard to the timeline. This will serve as the audio for the final video and is what we'll sync the other clips to. Now just add the footage from the other 2 cameras and line them up. Using the audio waveforms is a great way to do this, and when you play it back, it should sound like a single audio track. So mute the audio from the additional cameras, and now we're ready to begin cutting these clips up. Now you can cut these up any way you want. That's kind of the beauty and the creativity that I enjoy of editing. But in general, I try not to linger too long on a single shot, maybe 4 or 5 seconds max. This keeps the viewer engaged and interested. If a particular instrument is soloing or has a prominent part, I would try to use an angle that focused on them. So I went through the entire timeline cutting up clips like this. We decided on 5 songs for this, and I think the final video ended up to be about 18 minutes long, so this process kind of became a little bit repetitive near the end. But once that was done, I went back through and added all the B-roll clips that we captured using the same guidelines as above, maybe 4 or 5 seconds transitioning to different shots with the B-roll as well. So lastly, where I had that bass clip in there, the wide shot of the whole band, I went back through the entire timeline, and not every time, but sometimes when I was showing that single clip, that single shot of the whole band, I would crop in or zoom or add some keyframes to add some motion to that to make it look like that 4th or 5th camera angle that really wasn't there. Now that's not something that you need to do. Obviously you could just set up a single phone and do a Facebook Live or a YouTube Live thing. But that one shot might get boring pretty quickly, especially over the course of multiple songs. And as artists, that's the last thing we want to do is bore our audience. So with that, hopefully this video wasn't boring. If you haven't already seen the Halloween video there that I made for the action, I'll leave that in the description down below, so feel free to check that out. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave those as well. And as always, thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.